Maybe. Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Nothing But Fantasy Tuesday night edition. I will say hi to my friends in the chat room, and Ariel is here with me. Ariel Cohen. Ariel Cohen. I always love to read all of the qualifications of my guests because they're pretty significant. Okay, so you're the creator. What we're going to talk about mostly today is the fact that you created a projection system called ATC. What's your middle name, may I ask?
It's a Hebrew name. It's a tzvi. It's
It
spelled Tzvi.
it
So
doesn't. It's a T. That
it's
was
a
my.
T. Yes, it is a T.
So let me just ask, if you named these projection systems your initials ATC, then you never forget the name of it.
Well, they're called the average total cost projection system. It's just a random coincidence that it happens to be the same initials as me.
I don't know. Really? Come on. Number one most accurate at Fantasy Pros, where we a lot of us actually, we submit our rankings before the season, and
Mhm.
you can use whichever rankings you want over there. The Fantasy Pros is an excellent site that has lots of tools to get ready for fantasy. You can do all kinds of stuff over there. We know about the tools, right? um, Most accurate fantasy baseball expert in 2020. You also beat me, okay, out for Tout Wars champion.
Thank you.
How's
Yeah.
that feel?
Great. That was a great league, by the way.
So much fun.
I know going to the last day almost. It could have been you, could have been me, Ian Khan. That was a lot of fun. It was a little nerve wracking the last week, but I was cool. I played my guys that I thought would do it. I played some sneaky guys that no one was even interested in, but just to get some innings and just because I thought they might steal a base or something like that. And hey, it worked out, so I'm happy.
So, I mean, I could complain about Dinelson Lamet, okay, but he's kind of the reason why I got where I was. So, I mean, I can't really complain about him that much, right? But he did kind of screw me the last week. Like my pitchers, they were just pulling them out.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I need Bauer to remember. There was like this off chance that Bauer could pitch one more
I
time.
remember. I remember you were talking about that. I remember the last week. Hey, listen, you've been a Bauer believer for years and years, and it did pay off for you this year, right? It had to.
Absolutely, like for sure. At least we know he can do it, right? Whether or
Oh
not he's
yeah.
going to do it again, we'll have to see about that. But anyway, so your FSWA, that is the Fantasy Sports Writers Association, your Baseball Writer of the Year in 2019. You've been a finalist for 5 times. You compete in labor, same league as me, same
Yes.
Tout Wars league as me.
Yes.
The labor mixed auction is
Yes.
this is the was the first year in 2020. Now I've been stuck playing, like I played in the AL labor, okay, one time. That was ridiculously hard, not even fun hard.
Yeah.
And then I've been kind of bouncing around a little bit, but I always try to go for the live drafts. And you said that was your first expert live draft. Luckily that happened before
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah, very fortunate. I've never done an expert auction. I've done many, many auctions, live, not live, so I'm very familiar with it. And I didn't know what to expect. I have you sitting there. Got Ron Chandler was sitting all the way in the corner. Ray Murphy was across from me. Jeff Zimmerman was next to me. It was a little bit daunting there, but I did my usual whatever I do, and I felt pretty good coming out of it. I ended up finishing in 4th place in that league. Tout Wars, I did it a little bit better, obviously. But that was a great experience for me. Very, very fortunate.
Luckily we'll be able to do that again I'm looking forward to the day that we
Yeah,
can actually sit at the same table without a mask on. Okay, that would be fabulous.
I know.
Is that ever going to happen, by the way?
I think so. I mean, the vaccinations are going slowly now, but they're going. At some point, you'll have 50% of the population immunized, and we'll call it herd immunity. And anybody who's been vaccinated can take off their mask. I get it has to be. Otherwise, why are we vaccinating everybody, right?
Well, yeah, that's what you hope. So, what about the Mets? What about the ballparks? We know that they will be selling tickets for.
Yeah.
I love the fact. I mean, I can't even think of a better situation for me because I'm not a big fan of like having lots of crowds of people around me. I would love to find the ballpark, only a third full where there's like no lines and just you get social distancing all the time.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
fun will that be? Okay, and would you go to a game?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Yeah, me too.
it's a very big thing, indoors versus outdoors. I'm a lot more comfortable. I think most people are more comfortable in the outdoor setting as opposed to going to like an Islander game. I would personally go. I think I have some short-term immunity to the disease. So I'd probably go anyways. But yeah, outdoors, I think there's no problem.
So you already had COVID?
Yeah, unfortunately, I did.
So you were okay though. That's not unfortunate. That's fortunate.
Yes, if you think of it that
Because you
way,
look
then
fine. You
fortunate.
look great.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah,
Nobody would
no,
ever know that you had the COVID.
no, very, very mild in my case, thankfully. Had like a night of fever, and a couple weeks later, it's gone.
Oh my gosh, though, the mental state that you must have been in. Like, I think that half of us just get so freaked out about getting it that, like, we freak ourselves out into that's way
Yeah,
worse than the actual sickness, you know? Okay, anyways, moving on. You host it's called Beat the Shift podcast, and it used to be with TGFBI League. We all know
right.
Justin Mason's the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational. Um, wow, I got that right. I can't even believe that. Okay, but so you used to host that podcast. Now you guys have moved to Fangraphs. Wonderful. You and your co-host Reuven, who actually was
Right.
there at Labor and drafted with you at Labor.
That's right. That's right. No, good experience. And remember, we had you on the show last year as well, right?
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Whenever anybody asks me, I always go on, it's great. Okay. So, and all kinds of things. You compete in NFBC, blah, blah, blah. But here's what we do here. What we try to do here is get people ready for fantasy baseball. And we try to give them information that may or may not, that they could just at least consider, you know, coming from like you did win Tout Wars, which I don't know. I'm not that pleased, but something. Talk to me about ATC projection system. I definitely know that you can find them at Fangraphs. They have several different projection systems you can use. Talk to me about how you came up with. I didn't see any numbered rankings. I don't see rankings on the ATC projections. If you sort them by ADP, that's one thing, but they're not in the same order as when they first pop up on the screen.
No, what you want to do to get a ranking, and ranking really depends on your league format. If you're in a points league or if you're
For
in a
sure.
10-team league, so I don't publish rankings because I think that's very misleading.
Good.
I urge you on Fangraphs. There is an auction calculator. If you go to it and you put in your league settings, 12-team, 5x5, whatever your categories are, it will print out what ATC thinks is the rankings. So do it that way. Put in your league settings, and it will give you a ranking.
I didn't know you could do that. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at the ATC rankings right now. Where do I find the auction calculator?
So if you go to Fangraphs and you
Yes,
go down on the projections tab on the top middle,
I'm
the
looking at
very last
ATC.
item. So the
Okay.
very last item of the projections tab, it says auction calculator, and you want to switch the projection system or whatever it is from whatever it is to ATC
Oh, how
in the
convenient is
calculator.
this? I've
Yeah,
never found this little dealy
right.
tool over here.
Right.
Okay.
Just
That
to
can,
clarify, these are not my own. It's not my own calculator. It's what Fangraph says, but it's pretty similar to what I do. It's a Z-score methodology of doing it, which I personally use myself.
well, I've heard you a couple times talking about, because you wrote great articles talking about both drafts at Labor and Tout Wars. You talk a lot about one of the steps that you do when you get ready for drafting is to create auction values. You take the ADP and you create auction values from ADP.
Well, there's two things I create. You really need to know two numbers for every player. You need to
Okay.
know your value for what you consider is an appropriate auction price, and you need to know what the market is going to pay.
But
And
how do
so
you
I
come up
take
with your values?
Well, my values, it's a formulaic. It goes based on the stats. I convert everything to a Z-score. So if you're, runs, each category, there's going to be some average runs for the category for the player pool. You then see how many standard deviations up or down you are in each category, and that gives you a normal score, a Z-score. And you add up the Z-score total from all of the 5 categories to give you a composite number, and you adjust that and you scale it up to the number of dollars in the league. If you're a
Thank you.
$260 league, you scale it up.
That's the best, most informative part. You have to
Yes.
make sure that your dollar values match the number of dollars that will be available at the draft. You cannot have
Yes.
just random amount of dollars available. So here's this wonderful system. If you go to Fangraphs, you can just like you said, scroll your mouse over projections. It's the last choice on their auction calculator. Now let's go back to some of your, because this is how I did. I agree with you that the rankings is very misleading. You should not be ranking players in baseball because the value of a player depends on who you have on your team already, like how your roster is already constructed. So, or how many, whatever it is, it changes. It's dynamic. Okay. Juan Soto is the top guy. Is Juan Soto your favorite?
According to ATC?
Yes.
Maybe in a points league or OBP format or so. I don't know. It depends on the format. I've seen my rankings where I had Acuna or Tatis are number one because of the steals or things like that.
Right.
Really,
okay.
It depends on the format.
This is just the like if you were to just go to Fangraphs, you didn't know anything about the auction calculator, and you just decided to check out this projection ATC. Juan Soto does come up first, right ahead of Mike Trout.
So that's WOBA. So that's sorted by WOBA.
It's sorted by WOBA. Okay, gosh.
Yeah.
There's only 2 with WOBA above 400. I mean, and that would be Juan. Yeah. I think Juan Soto is a better player than Mike Trout. Okay, I'm sorry. Take it back, Mike Trout. I didn't mean it like that. I meant like going forward, I think Juan Soto has yet to hit his best year, and Trout probably already has hit his best.
Yeah. I said this 2 years ago that Juan Soto will become the next best player in baseball. He will unseed Mike Trout. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. Maybe it'll happen this year. Maybe it'll happen next year. Trout's defense is better than Soto's, which probably keeps him up in a baseball standpoint. But yeah, he's awfully close to being the best player in baseball, and he's so young. He's got a whole decade of playing ahead of him.
Yes. What about Tatis? I think he's if Tatis can get his plate discipline down, he can absolutely be better than Juan Soto.
Wonderful player. I like Soto better than Tatis. Tatis is more of a crusher. Juan Soto is more of a hitter, I think, if that makes sense.
So tell me, I didn't even give you a chance to tell us about the projection system ATC.
So ATC is not a standalone projection system where I come up with numbers. I take a bunch of other projection systems that are credible and that I've studied for years, and I take the best parts of each. There are some projection systems that historically have been better at homers, some that are better at stolen bases, some are better for pitching strikeouts, hit by pitches. You name the statistic.
Well, are you able to tell us which ones?
I can't tell you which ones. That's my secret sauce. But
so Steamer and like Steamer, okay, and maybe Fantasy Alarm or RotoWire, or are these examples of some?
It could be. I mean, the stuff on Fangraphs, I can tell you are for sure in. Okay. But a lot of good credible ones that I'm able to study for years, obviously, and able to use.
Okay.
I take the best parts of each of them. I run mathematical regressions to know that if you take 40% of one and 10% of another and 5% of another, it'll give you the best indication of what the coming year statistics are going to be. And I apply that historical study forward 1 year, and I weight the projections for the going forward year, and lo and behold, it actually works. You won't. The thing about ATC is you won't get an outsized projection, so you won't get, oh my God, this guy is going to be Superman, and ATC is the highest man on the planet, the highest projection system on the planet. You're not going to have that. What it'll do is it'll thwart some bad attempt. So if some projection system goes wacky, ATC will not do that. It'll stop you from bad buys. A lot of times where the projection system's really lower, ATC is going to say, no. Look at some of the other projections, not as bad, or vice versa. It'll give you a better hit rate of projecting whether a player is better or worse than the market is, if it doesn't project the entire magnitude of the success.
So it takes in more than one projection system. It just weights the different systems different for each category.
Right.
Do you read Babs? Are you a fan of Babs, Ron Chandler?
I've read his introductory book. The thing about Babs is it's categorical. I mean, his categories are based on some projections, which are fine. He basically is saying that you need to account for risk, and you can't accumulate too much risk on your team.
Yeah.
And so that, there's buckets for experience risk and buckets for playing time risk and so on and
yes,
so forth.
you understand Babs at least.
I understand the concept, and he basically is like, take as much risk as you can. You pay whatever market value is for the player, and just make sure you have not much more than this kind of risk. I like the concept of including risk in the thought, but I disagree that you have to assign a certain amount of risk. I think that the better play is to risk adjust pricing. Is to say that if a player is $10 but he has a lot of risk, you need to lower that price that you are willing to pay for him, and vice versa. And then it's okay if you have a very risky team, so long as you have a bigger expected profit. If you have a non-risky team, you don't need to have as much profit. So I'm a little bit sharper with the mathematics.
You're a profit guy. You're a profit. You're a value.
I'm an actuary, so yeah, that's my job to do that.
Okay, right. So then I would think that you would be more risk. Well, I do think that this is just my opinion, but I definitely think that if you have once you get to a certain amount of risk on your team, you are in deep trouble. Like, you need to not have accumulating too much risk. And risk comes in the form of like all kinds of things. It comes in the form of experience that, we all prioritize our risk in a different way. For me, I'm a big believer in a rookie is a rookie is a rookie. And I don't know that I've heard you talk much about how you feel about drafting prospects.
ATC in general is negative on prospects. It doesn't really push them higher than other projection systems. So just by nature, I don't tend to pick a lot of prospects or rookies. If a rookie comes up as a 5th round player, I say wow with ATC, because usually I don't get that. And talking to an actuary here, actuaries are very risk averse. So I'll take as little risk as I can where possible.
You sent me the draft results for labor. Unfortunately, and I could tell you guys this, if you are able to get your standings for last season in any league, they know if they'll be there. But seriously, every year, I think I learned my lesson. Every year, I'm like, I got to get the standings and make sure I pull the standings in, because part of going into next season is to be able to do category targets, evaluate the people in your league. Like, okay, Ariel wrote 2 different articles, 4 parts, so 2 parts each, one for labor, one for tout. He talked about like how look, we're in the business of telling our secrets to everybody. Okay, so there's not a lot of secrets going on in these expert leagues, but I definitely, like, I'll listen to podcasts. I will definitely spy on people. Like, I'll spy on their articles, see what they're saying about players. I kind of know, like, but Ariel, you just went above and beyond analyzing the other people that you were going to be drafting against. And I felt like you were you were pretty much spot on for me. I can't speak for other. Well, we all know Paul Sporer. He's easy to figure out because he only spends like $30 on pitching.
That was easy, and that's great, by the way. Once I saw that he did that, he doesn't bother me because he's not going after any player I'm going to go after, right? If he has such a percentage geared towards that, I'm not fighting for. I only have to worry about players I'm going to fight over other people, right? I want to be able to do what I want to do and say, when is somebody going to fight with me, and make sure I make a plan so that I get as few battles as I can with other people. That's the idea.
So you said that you were only going to you would be more. It would. The odds are you would be in a fight for a player against me than Paul Sporer. I do not spend more than $35 on a player ever.
Right.
But you said that you were going to spend. You guys went into this with the idea that you would spend $30 on 2 players, one outfielder and one corner infielder. I think that's what you pretty much did. But you said you felt weird about getting too high priced of players.
This is the labor league. So a 12-team mixed league, you can spend a little bit higher than you would in a 15-team mixed league because the replacement level is a little bit better, right? If your guy gets injured, you can still get a pretty decent player to replace him, so that you should be willing to spend a little bit more at the top. And also, you don't want to have money left over in the table. So if you spend a little bit more than you want to for the top player or 2, you'll be guaranteed, if you just go bargain the whole way, not to spend anything. Guy like Jeff Zimmerman playing, he doesn't do that at all. he's okay if his top player is $20. He doesn't care. He doesn't go for anything above any price that he sees. And you can play in if you know what projection system he's using or what he does. You can know where you're outbid or not outbid. Ian Kahn was really, really upset at me for writing these articles because he's like, you figured me out. You told the whole world.
I mean, if you do a little research, it's not that hard to figure out. This guy's on the podcast all the time. I mean, talking about his players that he likes. It's not like you. I really think that what you really did was just analyze the type of what they've done in past drafts as far as their habits are. And, it's funny because nobody thinks that their poker face, that they have a tell. Nobody thinks that they're obvious or anything. They all want to believe that they're like some big, strategy secret or something, but it's not that hard. You could tell by their actions.
You can tell. And listen, I play poker, so I know how to read people. That's why I like doing live auctions. I read the room. And believe it or not, Andrea, I actually try to hypnotize people during the draft. I actually try to have my voice a certain tone, a certain way, repeat certain numbers a certain way, so that I sort of am in the background. I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm getting you to bid the way that I want. It seems subtle, and you probably have no idea that I'm doing this, but I attempt to hypnotize everybody so that they bet a certain way and stay out of it when I want them to, and bet when I want them to. Can't always do it, but I try.
I mean, I'll take you for your word at this one.
Yeah, yes, it does work. It really does, believe it or not.
You think that you did it in labor? Did you hypnotize me into drafting Chris Davis, dude, with the KH?
No, you did that one on your own. Okay. That must have been the first pick of the draft, right? Because that was a tribute to
Ron. It was a tribute
to Ron, but to Laura Michaels, right? He used to nominate Chris Davis first.
But I don't know. Yeah. Ron Chandler just like you. I'm a big fan of Ron, right? And no matter how long I've known him for probably 12 years now, and I still feel intimidated by him. Like I still feel like starstruck by him. He's super nice guy, okay, but I do love using Babs. I've had the best. I've probably had the best drafts of my life.
So you probably had a big problem though, because he uses Babs.
Of course,
so he uses Babs, and Ray Murphy, I'm sure, uses an offshoot of that, being at Baseball HQ. So you, Ray, and Ron were probably competing for a lot of the same people. That's a big problem, right? Isn't it?
Ray Murphy was in our draft. I don't think Ray Murphy was in our league. He was?
Yes, he was.
I don't care if other people use it. But we did talk about it. Ron and I talked about Babs before the draft. And he threw out Chris Davis because he was not adverse to getting Chris Davis. He would have been okay with him. But
he threw it out for lore. He threw it out for lore.
What do? I pay $7 immediately? Like don't ever lesson, okay, from other people. Learn from the other people. You don't bid $7 when I was like, I need to just bid enough to where I'll get him. But
I bought I think 3 straight players in the first run through the whole thing. To me, you strike while the iron's hot. If you like the price, don't wait for it. And it's funny because I'm usually so patient at auctions, and I'll usually wait. I've gone 30 picks before I've even picked a player, and everyone's like, Ariel, are you playing this draft? I think I have like 3 or 4 picks in the first 15 in this one. I threw out a guy and nobody bid on him. I got crickets in the first round. It was great.
Rafael
Devers. I bid 24. And I didn't expect him to go for $24. I mean, I didn't want to bid a ridiculously low number. $24. All right.
You were going to pay 30.
I was probably going to pay 30. I didn't want to. I preferred not to, but 24. And I looked at Ruve, my partner. I'm like, am I missing something here? This is our first expert. What am I doing wrong? But I loved it. That was great. And because I bought him for maybe $5 less than I wanted to, I was able to buy the next person for $3 more than I wanted to. And I got Freeman because of that. So it just, and you have to very quickly alter your price point at every player. So I had a price point for Freeman. I had a price point for everybody. And because I got Devers a certain price, I said, okay, I can now pay this for this price. I can now pay this. I don't need this guy. Like, you have to be able to alter your plan really quickly with information. Now that was really good information, getting a bargain. Sometimes it's not good information, but
So do you
that's a
keep
skill.
overall tabs though? So you have a number, you have 3120, $3,120 in the draft or whatever. That's a 12-team league. And then as players go, you say, that guy spent $5 more than I have this guy ranked at, or like, his auction value. So if I have him at $15 and that guy paid $21 and the next guy does the same thing, then you're over. People are spending more money and
Sure.
they're spending aggressively.
Yep.
Are you,
Yep.
so you're
I keep
keeping track
I
of
keep
all
track.
of this.
I keep track of everything. A lot of people do it to keep track of inflation. I do keep track of that, but I don't look at it so much because I know how inflation goes in leagues. If I'm familiar with the curve, so I can mentally adjust to it. But I keep track because I keep track of risk management. The price of player is dynamic. If you come in with a piece of paper and here's your auction prices, it's not right. It's a vacuum price. If there are steals guys who go out of the market, there's stolen bases guys left that are going to prop up in value. If you have a giant stolen base guy on your team, stolen bases should be less valuable to you. You should be willing to pay less for that player. So I have my own auction tools I've created that are dynamically priced and show me what I need on my team and
So
what I
every
really need to
time,
get.
when you draft a player, then you put them in this computer program that you have
Yeah.
made up. Like you're just a smarty, aren't you? You're a freaking smarty. Like you're creating projections and like you have your
Yep.
own draft software that you made,
That's
and
right.
so that's
That's right.
good. But so for people that are using drafts.
Oh, Andrea, it looks like I've lost the signal here. I don't know if people can see me. Well, I guess I'm just talking to myself here until Andrea gets back here, or maybe you can't hear me. But yeah, I have draft software that I like to put in myself, and it's something that I worked on very hard to do. I've it's something that nobody else does that I think that I can gain an advantage on other people to do with. Let's see if Andrea. I'm gonna exit the studio and come back in, and hopefully Andrea will be back, or maybe I've lost signal. I'm not sure. So see you in just a bit.
Hi. Do you
Ah,
see me?
you are back now. I
We
do.
thank you for staying so much, dude.
I probably should have stayed in the stream because I don't think I was kicked out, but I thought maybe it'd be a computer error or something. But we're back, and what's going on?
So thankful. Thank you. We had a fuse blew. So I
Whoa!
had to run downstairs and do some fuse work and put us back in line.
All right. Well, you're back.
Thank you for staying. Okay, so we're back. Whatever we were talking about auction values and stuff like that. But let's just move on to some tools that you use. Well, we already talked about the tools that you use too, because you're making up all your own tools. Do you use any tools online?
I mean, in terms of player research, I do. I look at Fangraphs. That's really the place that I start always. Baseball Reference is a great place for some statistics or some, if you want to aggregate some dates, some games together. Baseball Savant is always good to check, and I do order the baseball forecaster that Baseball HQ puts out. I think it's the best publication. I like to read that sometimes on the weekend. I mean, the other tools are I listen to some. Huh?
I was just laughing because I do too. I read it on the weekends.
Yeah, and I listen to podcasts. There's a lot of great podcasts out there, and to get some great tidbits of information. So, while I'm doing some household chores, why not put them on?
Well, most of the podcasts for fantasy baseball are pretty boring. I have to say, no offense to anybody, because I really like the people, but most of the time I have to really work hard to like keep my focus or keep hearing it. But the forecaster, we have everyone. We have everyone since 2002. I have every baseball forecaster since then.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love the online version of the baseball forecaster now because it's so easy to search for what you need. Like if you're looking for a specific player, you can see wherever he pops up in there. And of course, we love going to the pit.
I was going to say that I used to go to the first pitch regional conferences. I used to go to the Boston one and whatnot. And I remember the first year. I mean, Ron Chandler didn't know who I was, but I bought the book and like, hi Ron, can you autograph my book? And so he did. And I've had him autograph every single book of mine for since I have it. This past year when I was in a league with him, I didn't feel right having him autograph my book again. I'm like, I don't know. It felt like I shouldn't do that anymore. But
Probably,
that was
I
cool.
don't know. Does it make people feel good that you ask for their autographs, or is he just going to be like, "Oh God, you've already asked me a billion times"? I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't want to. I don't know what he would think. Like, why are you asking me now? But when he used to go,
you're competing against this guy now, so you can't act like you're just a normal fan.
Yeah, I felt a little funny this year, so I didn't. I just I mean I finished ahead of him in the league, so I think that I didn't need his autograph there. But no, I usually like, hey Ron, for good luck, could you for good luck, Ron, could you sign my thing? And,
So you came in fourth in labor. I don't even know where I came in because I can't get to the standings, but I'm almost positive. No, I know for sure, without a doubt, that I didn't finish in the bottom two. Normally in labor, I'm not good. Like, I don't know what it is. Now I feel like I've done it bad enough years that I'm jinxed. I'm totally jinxed on labor. I'm going to change that this year somehow.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, with Ron, well, labor is batting average, but with Ron though, I used to attend this conferences just as a guy going to these things, and right after ATC projections came out, I was so impressed that he actually knew my name, and he came over to me from the dais in the conference and said, "Mr. Ariel Cohen, how are you doing?" And I didn't realize he even knew who I was. So that to me that was a thrill when he recognized me somewhere along the way, and it was incredible. I mean, it was great playing with you. Also, obviously you have that affinity towards Ron, so you know what I'm talking about.
Dude, it was the first time I ever got to compete against Ron. It was like the highlight of the labor league. I was like, oh, I get to.
And for me, an hour before then, I gave a session at that conference about auction strategy, and he was sitting there in the second row, and I'm looking at him he's attending my session here. Oh goodness.
And then you did an auction. So I know you attended both of the other auctions. You felt like you were getting value out of the AL and
Oh, yeah.
NL auctions.
Oh, yeah. I sit there with a
But
pen
they're so
and
different. They're so different for just the only leagues versus the mixed league auction values.
right. But so believe it or not, I produced my own auction values and market values for both the AL League, both the NL League, and I came with my sheet as if I would draft. And I go over and I make notes. This guy's going +5, what I thought. This guy's going +2. And I get a sense as to what categories and what positions are going higher than I thought. And I then applied that logic to move my market values in our league. So I use that as a boost of the
Do you think it
information.
worked? Did that work for you?
Totally worked, because I was
Sorry, I
totally
didn't mean to
right
interrupt
in
you.
my market values that I had for our labor league was more correct because I went to the other leagues and adjusted it. So 100% worth it.
Do you still like Elvis Andrus?
And
You
not
were
for
high
this year.
on him. Yeah.
I was very high on him for last year. Look, he was stealing so many bases year after year. I actually had a bet with Rick Wolf, who actually is coming on my show this week, and I bet him straight up for a dinner or so. Elvis Andrus, and he picked Nick Madrigal, who's going to have the better value for the 2020 year. And even though Madrigal missed half the year, Andrus was so awful that I lost. So I owe Rick Wolf a dinner that hopefully after COVID I'll pay him. And hey, we'll talk about it on our show later this week also.
How much are you going to hold against Elvis Andrus, though? I do realize he's going to be 32 this year, but 2020, are we going to hold this against Christian Yelich? Are we going to hold this against players that took the year off? How much are you going to hold this against them? I mean, if Elvis Andrus would have, on a full season, he was on pace to steal 8 bases and hit 8 home runs. We're used to Elvis Andrus doing more than that. I mean, at least we're used to him stealing some bases, more bases.
I mean, Elvis Andrus, you can tell the team already announced that they are kind of falafel is going to play shortstop. So I think the signal is clear that Elvis has now left the building or has been asked to leave the building. One of them.
Oh, that's okay. But what about his contract? Let me see what it is. 8 years he signed, dude. 2013.
He signed for 8 years? Oh,
yes,
13. Okay.
For 8, but this is going to be his last season, so maybe maybe
he'll be a bench player. He'll fill in utility roles. Somebody will get injured, right? And he'll play in that spot.
That sucks for him. That stinks for him. I'm looking at the Rangers depth chart, or their depth chart, and I see Nate Lowe. It's Brandon Lowe and Nate Lowe. And I did notice Nate Lowe on your. That's what it is, Brandon Lowe. I'm a big fan, but what do you think? Your projection system seems to hold him at a pretty high standard.
This is which one? Which Lowe?
Nate Lowe. Who is now in Texas.
Right.
Nate Lowe.
No, I don't think so. I think Lowe I have as a low end corner infielder. I think I don't remember being especially high on him.
Okay, how about this? Why don't you tell me a couple of? Well, you have a thing called finding the hot spots. It's called what's it called? Tell me about the hot spots. How do you find them? What does that mean?
Sure. So to me, the key to having a plan in a fantasy baseball auction is finding the pockets of players that you think you're going to get somebody from. So if I find, let's say, 3 players with either the same position or similar statistics that are all bargains according to what I think I want to pay versus the market, that's what I call a hot spot. So for example, let's say Matt Olson, Pete Alonso, Paul Goldschmidt are all going for $20, and I think that they're all roughly $23. That's a small bargain there. I don't write on my sheet. I don't spend time in do I like Goldschmidt better? Do I like Olson better? The heck with that. I just write $20 on my sheet. Olsen / Goldschmidt / Alonso. And I don't really care which one I get. I get whoever the cheapest one. But the point is that what you might like Goldschmidt. I mean, we had Ryan Hallam there wearing a Goldschmidt jersey. Good chance he's going to go for Goldschmidt. I'm probably not going to get him. But if I find 3 players, 4 players, all with a similar price, because these are average auction values, for every one person that's higher, there's going to be somebody that's lower. It's a zero-sum game. So I have a higher probability of getting a player I want at a price I want if I find a group of players that I have a chance at doing. So I find this for every position, every statistic. I find this for every price tier, and that's
Every
how I create my
statistic?
plan.
For
Yeah,
every
you want to
category,
know.
you find it.
Yeah, you want to know what the stolen base hotspots are, what the RBI hotspots are, and you make a plan as to what to attack based on the groupings of hotspots throughout the draft.
So you're not grouping so much as so for Babs, there's a group of players that have the same assets and same liabilities. They actually match. Like to Babs, it's the same player, right? There are groups of players, groups of pitchers where you could say, I could get any one of these 4 pitchers and they're all going to be the same to Babs. Babs is going to think that if I have Yu Darvish, he's going to think it's the same guy as Steven Strasburg. I just remember those 2 being in the same. I loved that. Right. I loved that group of pitchers. It was like Castillo, Strasburg, Bauer was in there. Yu Darvish was in that group. Yep. I was like, I'll take all of them if I could get all of these guys.
Sure.
So
yeah, that's the way to do it.
That's not the same though as hotspots though. From what I'm getting from you is that they're more based on the market value and the value that you would pay for these players.
Yeah, it's not about who the pitcher is. It's not who the player is. It's about what the market says they are. And it's about knowing where to play at a certain price point, right? I want to play at the $20 price point. I see that there aren't 4 shortstops at that price. There are 4 first basemen at that price. So odds are I'm better off going for a first baseman at that price point. And I make sure that those guys in the hot spot are nicely priced. If there's guys who are terribly priced, I'm not interested in them at all. I want guys who are well priced, and I go after the dollar amount, right? Because it's all about the market. It's all about paying the price. Like Ron Chandler in his book 2 years ago said, it's the marketplace, like going to a restaurant and here's the menu. Well, that's what it is. Absolutely. So I'm taking my menu and I'm saying I like apples and pineapples in this. And if somebody is taking apples for a drop more, I'll take the pineapples. What do I care?
Exactly. I know exactly what story you're talking about. When he took his wife out to dinner for her birthday and he wanted to get the scallops and he was like, geez. So yes, market value is super important for sure. So, I mean, I guess that would be then where auction values come in. ADP, it's not really for finding the best player at that time. It's for knowing the market value of a player, what other people are going to pay for a player. Okay. So I have specific questions. I did put a couple of these on the outline, but I'm going to throw you off real quick because one comes to mind. And Nolan Arenado was just traded from Coors and Colorado to Cardinals, Busch Stadium. So my question, though, because we had Steve Gardner on the show on Sunday, he was our guest, and we did an auction for Nolan Arenado, and I said I would pay $26 for Arenado, and I was fine with that. But neither of these two, Lenny or Steve Gardner, wanted to pay $26 for Arenado. I gave all these reasons why I would, but part of it is the fact that he plays corner infield, and it's not that easy to get. This is not middle infield anymore. Like, do you remember when it was reversed for middle? It was not that hard. It was very hard to find a good shortstop. It's not like that anymore. It's the opposite. So where do you, this is like, I don't know for sure, but you probably have your auction values right in front of your face. So just go ahead and spout out what you have for Nolan Arenado.
If you want to talk about NFBC style, which is 15-team 5x5, before the trade, I had Arenado somewhere in the mid-20s. So we're talking like around $26, $27.
Okay.
Probably tick down $1 or $2. Again, I would never, if he's worth 26, 27, I'm not paying 26, 27. I'll pay a couple dollars lower. How much lower depends on my plans for everything. But, I'm not willing to spend more than 24, something like that.
But you say that, but you also say at the same time that your draft plan better be fluid. Like, you better be able to change your draft plan immediately. And if you save money on one player, then you will pay a little more for the other player. It's all about your numbers that you have value.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, the numbers that I'm telling you right now are numbers in a vacuum. But of course, it really matters. I'm probably not interested in Arenado at all this year. I think that there are better priced players at the third base position.
So you've
So,
never owned Arenado then, because he's gone in the first round. Like he's gone most of the time. He goes in the first round. Like he has, but lately, last year he had a bad season. I don't really know. I've never had him on my team because he's always too expensive for me. But I might have him this year.
Yeah, I've owned him before. I think I got him in late in the first round or second round once in the last couple of years. But no, it all depends. But you're right. I typically do not own Nolan Arenado for some reason. He was usually overpriced. This year, he's probably fairly priced. I think I wouldn't say he's underpriced.
They're
But
saying
I like others.
fifth or sixth round is what they're telling me. They would not. They think that he's a fifth or sixth rounder, and I say, no way, dude. Is he lasting that long in any draft I'm in? No.
Well, currently the NFBC ADP for Arenado, I'll tell you what it is.
Hey, tell
Is
me. I can't wait to see.
It's let's see, Nolan Arenado. I have him going in the third round currently. Now that might drop. It might drop since he's now moving to St. Louis. If he goes in the sixth round, he's a major bargain. I don't think he'll go there.
No way, dude. No way. I'm sorry. No way is he going there. So I like to put my NFBC rankings, ADPs on just like this month. Okay, so I do from January 1st to now. And if I type in Arenado, I mean, do you think so? First of all, is it that much worse going? Because I did check out Arenado's stats at Busch Stadium, and he is not bad in the National League Central, and he's not bad at Busch. I mean, I do realize that he's going to see some drop off in his stats for leaving Coors Field, but I don't know how much. I just can't.
I think it mostly affects the power metrics. I think that the homers will probably go down a couple. I can see a bit fewer base hits. I mean, in Colorado, the deal is not just the homers, but because it's such a large space and the outfielders have to take more of the outfield, there's a lot more singles that fall in. So I can see his batting average going up. Like OBP should be fairly similar. The walk rate shouldn't be too much. The strikeout rate shouldn't be too much. Probably actually better in the Central because the pitching is probably worse. He doesn't have to face the Dodgers. He doesn't have to go to some of these bad ballparks for hitters like Giant Stadium, Dodger Stadium, Petco. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think his value moves much. It's possible, though, that it'll move more than it should in the market, which would put him closer to being a bargain than not. So that's possible. I don't know. He's not my favorite third baseman. I think that there are others of more value or more important to take than him.
I'm just saying, I mean, this is a guy for the last like 6 years straight. He gets over 600 plate appearances. He's barely 30 years old. He did get hurt last year, but how much are we going to hold that against him? There's a lot of people that get hurt every year, and he does not do that. So I'm going to let him pass with the shoulder thing. I hope that that's the case. I can't guarantee that. We don't know for sure. I mean, but there are a couple players that I wanted to see, like that you drafted last year, that I thought I'd ask to see if you still like.
So by the way, so if because we're gonna be in the same league together for a couple, Arenado comes up, and I'll throw out Arenado 21. Are you gonna go? How high are you gonna go?
I am no secret. Okay, you can figure me out. You did figure me out. I'm fine with that. I will be very aggressive for players.
I'm asking you. You're telling me.
One of my strategies is that, like, if I'm aggressive immediately, if you say 11 and I go 12, 13, like immediately when you bid, I will bid. I think that it makes everybody know that I'm dead serious about this player, and then maybe they'll stop. However, there's been times where they've tried to price enforce. They've tried to, like, they know how serious I am, so they try to use it against me, but they get stuck with the player usually, so that's not good. Don't do it. Don't try it. Just kidding.
All right.
Chris Paddock, San Diego Padres, great team. Didn't have a good year.
No. Not a great year. Saras has said that his command plus is still really good. Look, his horrendous year, he had a 1.22 whip, which is not really that bad. His walk rate actually went down. He only had a 5% walk rate last year. Chris Pat, look at that pitching on the Padres. What is he, the fifth starter?
Are you kidding me? I know. It's amazing.
It's crazy. I don't. I think that he's undervalued for going to this year. I would not pay the same price that I was willing to last year, but I think that he could be a ratio stabilizer. I think he gets enough strikeouts. I think he's more dependable than you think. So to me, he has a value. He's definitely interesting to me. I think he can help. He's not somebody that can win your pitching, but he can work in tandem with another pitcher, throw him with some innings and some strikeouts, and you've got a nice pair. I think he could be a good number 2 or 3 if you use him correctly.
See, I must like him more than you because honestly, I do think he could win. That he could help. Look at what his stats were in 2019. That was the
Great.
problem. I think that with what we saw in 2019, we expected in 2020, and he was not even close. So you did pay 26 for Chris Paddock. I would pay 25 for him to try him out again. His ERA last year was 4.73, but like you said, his walks actually went down, and his FIP was not good though. It was 5.01. That's not good. However, he is the number 3 or 4 starter. And one of the things that I noticed big time with San Diego Padres acquiring pitchers, they're all strikeout pitchers. Like these guys are strikeout kings with Snell and Darvish and all these. And Chris Paddock, I'm going to give him another chance. He's only 25 years old. And just because he was so great in 2019, I'm not going to take that away from him completely. But I think that you'll be able to get him for like $16 or 17.
Yeah, I think that he should be priced a drop higher than that. I don't have your $20-something on that. I think I'd rather take a gamble on a couple of other guys, maybe a Zach Gallen, a Kyle Hendricks, Carlos Carrasco, who might be a little bit cheaper than what you're willing to pay for Paddock. But yeah, I think I'm probably a little bit higher in the market than Paddock. And again, it all depends on who my first pitcher is. If you have a certain first pitcher, and it won't work with Paddock, you have to know how to combine the right people.
For sure. Depending on the pitchers that you get. So like I'm saying like after round 10 or 11, you're starting to really understand what kind of team that you're working with and where you are falling short. A lot of times Kyle Hendricks is a big one that gets talked about because he can really stabilize things for you. He pitches a lot of innings. He doesn't have a great velocity fastball, but he's total stabilizer, right? So what about Strasburg? Now we're talking about a guy. I remember when Strasburg was drafted, okay? And he was treated like a piece of glass on a shelf. I mean, he was treated like your wedding china dishes, okay? And I think that really hurt him because he's never, ever last year was supposed to be his year. He was supposed to just be the best.
Yeah. I was very high on him last year. I bought him last year in labor. Disappointed. What are you gonna do? Injury. The problem is, what's his injury? Is he gonna come back? I'm very risk averse.
His injury right now is his hand, dude. But what's the injury is the question of the day because if you look in the baseball forecaster, I'm sure that they do the injury log in there for the last 5 years. You could tell how many days that he's missed in the last 5 years. And as much as I love Steven Strasburg, but here's the thing, he's going to go late. You're going to get a deal on him. You love deals. So
yeah, if for the right deal, I think, listen, I don't suspect that the quality of his innings will be excellent. I just don't know what the quality of innings are. If I'm picking Clayton Kershaw as my first pitcher, I am not going to pick Steven Strasburg. If I'm going to pick Trevor Bauer, who I know is going to get me a lot of innings, I might want to take a gamble on Steven Strasburg at the right price. So it's all about the combination of players and how you fit them in as to your risk management. I guess I do what Babs does a little bit mentally, right? We all should. I adjusted prices, of course. The thing about like with Babs is, to me, you have to have a price. It all comes down to a number. You have to say a number out there. So you need to know what your price point is.
A lot of people don't do auctions though. So, and here's the thing: I think we all should, whatever we want to call it, like call it whatever you want. It needs to be that you take into consideration the risk of players, because if you end up with like 8 prospects, or you end up with like guys that are constantly on the injury list all the time, the chances are good that you're going to have an injured team for the whole season. So whatever way works for you to keep a bunch of risk off your team is a good idea. Reese Hoskins, you paid $10. I am a fan. I believe that Trevor Bauer is going to Philly. I do.
Trevor
Why do you
Bauer
think
to
he is?
Philly.
I do.
Ooh,
You want to know why? No, it doesn't matter. We
yes.
only have a couple minutes. You have to be a hard 8 leaving here, and we lost time. I want to know what you think about Reese Koskins. You liked him enough last
I can
year.
go. I can go a little further today, by the way, if you need to. But I think there's a good chance he ends up in the NL East. I think that Washington might be a good spot for him also.
Why? Well, here's one
They
thing.
love those contracts in Washington.
The JT Realmuto contract is for 5 years, 100 million, but the first couple years they defer the payments, so they're only paying him 10 million a year. And then his pitching coach and friend from Cincinnati, his name, I don't. Cotham is his name. He's a driveline guy. Helped Bauer a lot. Appreciates Bauer for what he is. And the Phillies are not tanking. That's for sure. They're obviously they just got DD.
Right.
DD's 32 though. So like don't forget that in your drafts. He's 32 and there's never been there's been 2 shortstops, Jose Reyes and one other shortstop that have actually like done well at that position after age 32. So it's pushing it with DD. Why do you think the Nationals?
Oh, I don't think the Nationals. I just the Nationals are a team that's willing to spend the contract on pitchers. He's the type of player that they like. Yeah, I hope the Mets don't sign him. I really don't want to see him in New York, and I think that the Mets are better off signing Jake Odorizzi and getting some help other places, like at the third base position or another reliever or something. I'd rather have Odorizzi.
Why do you say you hope that Bauer? Well, I hope he doesn't end up at Yankees, but I would love to see him at the Mets. Are you?
I'm not going to complain
if trouble.
I'm not going to complain if Bauer signs with the Mets as a Mets.
But why don't you want him?
I'm just thinking of it as a general manager that if I want to spend $35 million for the year, I think that there's a more efficient use of funds. So I'm thinking like a general manager, analytics guy. As a fan, sure, sign them all. You know, of course I love him. Although I don't know, the personality seems weird. The videos that he puts out I don't even know what he's saying in the videos.
So he's getting a little full, like he's full of himself. Like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's really kind of full of himself lately.
I don't know. I don't know what he's actually saying in his videos. He's saying I'm being transparent, but he's not giving any information. I don't care about this. I'll sign. I don't care about geography. I'll sign with anybody. I want to sign in a winning team. I want to sign for the right money. Of course,
I know what he said.
What
he said in that video, dude, is that it's very important to him to sign with a team that is at least willing to discuss him pitching every 4th day.
They'll all say no, though. So sure, I'll discuss it.
I don't think that's true because you're coming off of a season where pitchers only threw a small amount of innings. You have lots of young people all the time coming up into your pitching staff. You don't want to pitch too many innings. Although, like, Trevor Bauer doesn't have the greatest record on 4 days rest, but but there's not very many times it's a very small sample size, you know, but we all know that he does pitch all off season and he's trained to throw a lot of pitches. So why not? He needs to go to a team that is ready to win right now. I pray that he does not go against what he promised. He made a promise that he will take 1-year deals. Like, that's it. And I hope that he doesn't go against that.
He's not gonna take a 1-year deal. He's gonna take a 3-year. He's gonna take a 3-year deal with an opt out after every year. Well, there's no point. There's no point in him saying just 1 year, $40 million. He's gonna say, give me $100 million for 3 years, opt out every single year for sure.
I believe that he's trying to change the way that contracts are written, and he has made it very clear that if he takes a more than 1-year deal, then his friends are going to shoot him in the balls with a paintball gun.
He'll disguise that by saying it's an opt out, and I'm taking it, so I'm guaranteed the money. But if I were him, I would take an opt out. Just call it opt out. Opt out after this year, after that year.
No, because once you go into the multi-year contract, you're getting rid of the average annual value. I mean, you're throwing away this idea that you could actually make like 40 million or 35 million a year by taking very short contracts.
No, but he'll take a 3-year deal that pays him $40 million the first year, $30 million the next year, and $30 million the following year with an opt out after every year, and then he'll say, "All right, well." I think that's what he'll do. If you're an agent, you're gonna tell him what nobody's signing you for 140. They'll at least give you some kind of thing. Why don't you take it, Trevor? I
Agent
don't know.
Rachel Luba, dude, is like gung ho about listening to all the deals. But if it was just him, he would be like, I'm taking 1 year deal because I don't want to get shot in the balls. But whatever. So, okay, who's your couple favorite targets so far this year? What you've been seeing with them? You like value. So, what players do you see so far that are giving off the most value?
Yeah, so from ATC projections to what I see in the market, how about Tyler Glass now? I think
Ugh.
that he seems like a very no, you don't like him?
Look, man, don't you think he's a little overrated? He can't stay healthy.
He can't stay healthy, but if you well, I have him projected for just 160 innings, and at that 160 innings,
Really?
he's about a $2-3 bargain on the market, and I'm one of the low ones on his innings. So
Okay.
I think that for the time, and remember, there's replacement value. If a guy gets injured, you get another starter in the spot, so you should be willing to pay more
Yes.
for that innings, right? Kershaw should be worth higher because you can replace the innings, and he's giving you quality. Glasnow is going to give you quality for when he pitches, so he's worth the extra dollar. It's not like I don't know what he's going to do. I just don't know how often he's going to do it.
Do you know that? Well, so last year he pitched 57 innings, which would put him on pace for 154 innings, which
Right.
is that's perfectly fine, and I would draft him
Plus the
really high
playoffs.
for that.
Plus
He's
the
never even
playoffs.
come. Look, he's never come close to that ever in his career. He's pitched the most he's pitched in a season is 111 innings. So yes, he's on pace for 150, but to even think that he's going to do that, to me, I mean, yes, he strikes out a lot of batters. Yes, he's very sexy. You know, he's got flashy stuff. He's throwing like a billion miles an hour, but has he ever proven that he's going to stay healthy?
So again, for a pitcher like this, the right way is not to say I like him or not. It's to stress test innings. If I project him for 160, is he a bargain? If I project him for 150, is he a bargain? If I project him for 100,
how can you project him for 150?
Well, I mean, he was on pace for more than that last year, so you can. But no, what I'm saying is, you do the stress test analysis, and you say, at what price point is he not a bargain, and his ADP is low enough that there's a good probability if I look at my distribution of innings that 70% of the time what I'm paying for, I'll probably get it, and that'll be a bargain. So he's the check mark for me for a value. How about Eduardo Escobar? Why is nobody bidding? Why is nobody bidding on him? I mean, he had a great year in 19, down year last year. It was only 60 games, of course. Just project him to what he does every single year. And he's a $10 player or more. I mean, he had 2 years in a row. He had $25 value or more. So project him as a $10 player. And he's going for 2. He's going 26th round. Why
we have not paid attention to him for a couple years now, I feel like.
I have. I've owned him like every other year, or every year on a couple different teams. He's a good player.
He's on Arizona now, so that doesn't matter to you. His batting average was only 212 last year, though.
Yeah, but 60-game season. Throw that out.
Throw it out when convenient.
No, not convenient. In a 60-game set, if you look at numbers, you can have that kind of variance. It's not within a norm. I mean, think about it this way. What is one? If you get one extra hit in 20 at bats, right? You're adding 50 points to your batting average. So if for 212, if he had one extra hit every 20, so one more hit a week, he'd be a 260 hitter, and you wouldn't think twice about drafting him. So for that. So every week, so if he had 5 more hits in the year, he'd be acceptable to you. Like it's such a small variance there that doesn't bother me.
I could tell you that he is probably a bargain because he's going 324th overall since January 1st. Yeah. He's like that's round 35, which most leagues don't even have that. So the fact is that he's in the middle of a lineup. Anybody that hits in the middle of the lineup is going to bring back some value at least.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to let you go because it's 8:03. I promised you 8 o'clock, but unless there's something else, I'll talk baseball.
I'm here. I can stay a drop longer if you like. But yeah, no, this is great stuff here. It's great to talk baseball, talk my process, which I find myself being different than a lot of other people. I have very different ways of thinking about things. Got the mathematical tools that people don't do. And listen, my strength is that nobody knows what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure out what everybody else is doing.
I know what you're doing now. I know what you're doing now because just for this show, I've done a lot of research on you. I've read a lot of your articles. I've watched other interviews with you. Like you've been on CBS lately, a couple times on different CBS podcasts. Eduardo, we talked about Eduardo Escobar, but what about Eduardo Rodriguez, who took the season off? He's another one that, geez Louise, he's pitched one full season. We do like it. Oh, you still do? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, remember he didn't play last year, but it was not from his arm. It was not from his leg. It was not from a shoulder, an elbow. It's COVID, some heart complications. I spoke to my buddy Ruvain, is the injury guy, and there's nothing wrong with him. He expects to be there, and just treat him as somebody who just sat out a season, who opted out. I mean, are you concerned about Marcus Stroman? If you aren't, you shouldn't be concerned about Eduardo Rodriguez.
I don't like, no, I don't think that you could say, but I understand that, yes, look, Eduardo Rodriguez has had a lot of injuries in his past. He's had a lot of injuries, but he did, I like him too. I think that because of the fact, and what about David Price? He took the year off last season because of COVID, but he's never pitched for the Dodgers now. And we have this ongoing question, is Kluber or David Price, which would you rather have in 2021?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Neither.
David Price, I don't know exactly. I don't know. He could be good. I don't know. Kluber is interesting because, the Yankees passed on Masahiro Tanaka and they went with Kluber, and they could have given Tanaka a $10 million deal like they gave Kluber. I mean, he went for $8 million back to Japan. Why did they pass on Tanaka to go for Kluber? I think they saw something in Kluber that looked interesting. So that interests me. My eyebrow raised when I saw that. So
did it raise even higher when they got Jameson Taillon?
No, didn't raise higher. I mean, Taillon is a old buddy of Garrett Cole, and he was Pittsburgh's trying to sell out, so they need to fortify their rotation. He seemed like a cheap get at the time. So yeah, Taillon is.
I love him. I loved him going into last year. I actually drafted him in one of the leagues. You got to really love Taillon's work ethic. And another thing that's Kluber, same thing. They work very hard. They've worked their way back from injury. David Price, we don't really know what's going on because he hasn't pitched for the Dodgers yet, but he definitely wasn't. The reason that he didn't pitch last year wasn't because of injury. And
right. Well, we don't know.
The Yankees, dude, have a problem. The Yankees if Toronto gets Bauer, they will be able to beat the Yankees. But the Yankees have very high questionable pitching, and
Toronto is not going. He's not getting Bauer. Bauer's not going to Toronto. Why would you trade the Mets? Why would you trade for Steven Matz and pick up a $5 million player, and then say, "Yeah, let's also get Bauer"? Like, just get Bauer. Why would you get Steven Matz and trade some potential six starters? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Do you like? Well, okay. So, anyways, who else? That's it. That's pretty much it. That's all my questions. I think.
Awesome.
We defined the hot spots. We found out the difference between the market value and what you're willing to pay. We talked about your ATC projections that you can find at Fangraphs. People can follow you on Twitter at ATCNY, just the same name that's in the chat room.
That's right there.
You beat me in both leagues last year, so I am going to be getting revenge on you.
Uh-oh.
What else? Oh, and you grew up, you lived on 199th Street in Fresh Meadows when you were younger.
Right.
That's the same where Lenny grew up, and it was like the best. Yes. When Lenny grew up, it was like the best. I mean, he grew up in a picture-perfect movie, 50s, 60s setting, the suburbs and, Fresh Meadows was one of the first suburbs to have cars for people.
My dad grew up in that era in Fresh Meadows also. He was, I think, on 175th Street. And when I was younger, my very first place was on 199th between, the area, so between 75th Avenue and Union Turnpike. And that's exactly where I was. Yeah, I play Little League around there. I actually still play right there, and I run an adult softball league in Queens and Long Island, and that place on Francis Lewis Boulevard and 73rd Avenue is one of my fields. So I'm there in the spring, summer, every third week, or as rotating one of the fields there. Love the area. My parents are still in the area, so I visit there frequently. I used to, when I was an adult, when I first got married, I moved to 193rd Street, right in the Fresh Meadow apartment. So I've been around that area so long. I know the area really well.
Okay, let me just warn you. I will give you a warning, okay? Learn from other people's mistakes. But I don't know how old you are, but I know you're over 30. So just be
How old do I look?
I don't know. I'm 45, dude. And when I was 30, it was maybe 32. But I was playing softball and I tore my Achilles tendon. I had to wear this walking boot cast, like a hard cast, on my leg for 6 months. I didn't have to have surgery though, but I just remember I played softball my whole life, and then just one day I'm just there and I'm batting, and as soon as I go to turn to run to first base, I felt like somebody shot me in the back of my leg, like a bullet hit the back of my leg, and I didn't even go to the doctor for like 3 or 4 days, but I could barely get up to go to the bathroom, and like finally did, and he said that my tendon. So just this is what I learned. This is my lesson. Do stretches. Make sure you're stretched out before you try to go from 0 to 100 going to first base after the age of 30.
I'm always the first person there at every game. I used to be a shortstop, third base, but now I'm the pitcher. So I do a lot of warm up, make sure I'm ready. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to play till I can't play. I play in 3 different softball leagues during the week, in the spring, summer. I can't get enough. I like real softball better than fantasy, to be frank with you.
You like these long, above your head pitches that you have to go high and then you hit it?
No, the high arc league. I play in one high arc league with my company's league, but no, I play modified. So it's not the windmill that girls do.
Right.
It's you just can't go above your shoulder, but you can throw it in. I don't pitch fast. I'm not that good. So I go on changing speed, changing location. So I'll throw a fastball at about 35 miles an hour, and then I'll throw a ridiculous Lisa Fernandez-esque changeup at like 25 miles an hour, and it'll just slow, and people are like, what the heck is this? And comes in for a strike, and you're out, that kind of thing. Or you pop it up. You don't know. You'll say, I got to swing at this, and you just don't know what you're doing with that pitch. So that's my style, and I love it.
Thank you, Ariel, for coming on the show. I will definitely see you in our coming up drafts, and we'll talk soon. But I'm definitely going to be getting revenge on you this year, so I hope that happens.
Well, I'm. Thank you so much for having me, and I am excited to play again with you. I'd be very thrilled if you did have revenge and you finished higher than me. But excuse me if I try to win again and try to do my. I'm going to do my best, and you're a great competitor, and I like you. So if you beat me, that's awesome. I'm going to love it too. I'm a very gracious loser.
What days does Beat the Shift come on? The podcast at Fangraphs. What days?
I record it Thursday nights. It usually comes somewhere overnight on Friday morning. So first thing Friday morning, check it out. We're going to have Rick Wolf on it this week. We got, I believe, Nick Pollock on next week.
Ask him about Gary Sanchez. See if he's going to be drafting Gary Sanchez this year.
Okay, I'll ask him that question. Andrea tells you. All right.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Andrea. Take care.